before we let Bill, you make your statement. I'll sit down, please.
Well, say, Mr. Mayor, your first council meeting, I think it's been very good for comfort of the council meeting. It's been quite good tonight, in those screaming, shouting, the reason why I am standing up is that I think it's important for future council meetings that we should clarify the Constitution. My reading of the Constitution tonight is that 9 o'clock, as I read it, when 9 o'clock comes, there's no debate. Okay? And that when I move standing order 9, then the debate will carry on until the motions are finalised. So I would ask legal advice on that, if I'm right or wrong.
Yes, through you, Chair. Standing order 9 needs to be suspended in order for the debate to proceed. So the council is obviously debating the observation, then the council will be required to suspend standing orders.
Thank you very much for that. Considering we've had 2 adjournments this evening already, which should have only taken 20 minutes, but both extracted to 15, we've already lost half an hour of tonight's council meeting. I intend to allow the 2 notices of motion to be dealt with, but I will actually only allow 15 minutes to each. And then the guillotine will come into place. In that case, then I will ask Councillor Green. Sorry. Yes, please give the advice.
Yeah, I think I did indicate that we'd give the same advice to all 3 groups, which we have done, and Serge, if I may add a couple of words. In my view, based on Serge's advice, the amendment from Councillor Hardy and Councillor William is legal, but actually impractical, because the legal constraints are so tight that the reports I will be producing will be almost meaningless, because I'll be so constrained by the compromise agreements that were signed last year. Also, it will be very difficult to compel or request the family officers concerned to cooperate with this investigation, as they have no power to compel that. Therefore, the report would be very, very thin indeed. And only Serge, I just 1 or 2 words to that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to echo the points, the contractual position is that the council has entered into binding agreements and therefore terms and conditions with certain individuals. That does constrain what the organisation is able to state, both in public in particular. And failure to do so, that the council does then run the risk of potential challenge being mounted against it, possibly for defamation or indeed other courses of action if there is an argument that the council has breached its obligations. Furthermore, there is also the tribunal decision, which does make a number of representations and judgments around personal information and disclosure thereof. And again, council will need to be mindful of the judgment that it has been provided with, which will be binding and indeed would govern any response or indeed report that is to be made.
Councillor Gilchrist, please.
I listened to the advice, but we're fortunate to receive a copy of the Information Commissioner's letter over the weekend after some discussion that took place late last week. First of all, it was unsatisfactory for members to get such things late in the council meeting during this evening. But I wanted to seek particular points about clause 26 of the Information Commissioner's letter, clause 28 of the Information Commissioner's letter, and also clause 46. Clause 26 talks about the Commissioner considering the circumstances and whether the information expected them to leave their positions would be disclosed to any member of the public. Clause 28 talks about the information again. This view that the individuals would have no expectation of detailed information about these discussions and terms under which they left the authority will be disclosed to any member of the public in response to a freedom of information request. There is, Mr. Mayor, in clause 46 on page 9 of the letter, another statement about the public interest. and it does, as officers have said, identify with the not being convicted of any crime. But the paragraph concludes, Mr. Mayor, public accountability for failings within the council's practices rests with the council as a whole, rather than with individual officers. My view would be that we are the council, we are not the public in this particular instance, to represent the public, but the council has given members of the council the duty to ensure that things are done properly, and in my view, that things come out properly. That's my interpretation of the. I'm obviously not a solicitor, not a barrister. I don't have advice for somebody in the corner, apart from people rushing through our room and giving us brief advice. My view is that we're being very cautious, very circumspect, very ultra cautious, if you put it that way, in not looking at this in terms of the public interest.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I was going to say that I think Councillor just made some interesting points which you have to respond to in writing. I don't think it affects the fundamental advice that I'm giving, that this investigation you're requesting will be impractical.
Do you still wish to continue with your amendment?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor. I wonder if my attitude is I've got extra councillors this evening.
Didn't hear that.
Right.
Sorry.
Councillor Graham, would you like to move?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that. I will move this resolution. And can I just say how disappointed I am in some of the, well, for the sake of argument, let's call them shenanigans that seem to have gone on, that seem to be trying to prevent this information being brought to the attention of the council. I'm incredibly disappointed with what's happened, and it seems to me that actually what we're seeing is things don't change. They might change for a little bit, but pretty soon the waves lap in and we'll get back to the situation where the information we're getting is more spin control, let's close it down, let's say we're not going to discuss it and prevent the council from finding out what went on. Mr. Mayor, this is exactly where we came in at the very outset. The way the then administration tried to dismiss everything that Martin had said, the way he was thrown out of the council, the way he was treated, and, Mr. Mayor, the Labour Party might not like it. They might try and do everything to prevent this being debated or coming out, but it will. This is not an issue that we're going to let go of until the truth comes out. Let's just remember, Mr. Mayor, if we can, Martin, between 2001 and 2006, consistently raised concern over service issues related to supported living and blew the whistle in October 2007. Following that, there was a PIDA report, and we all remember the PIDA report. To a large extent, what happened there was unsatisfactory. But one thing that did happen was when Martin came to a meeting, an audit committee meeting, there was an investigation ordered into the way he had been treated and into allegations of bullying. Let us just remember, in terms of those allegations of bullying and mistreatment, they were found to be correct subsequently, even though, again, that was another report that was delayed. Mr. Mayor, I had to order an investigation by AJA in July 2010. The Martin Smith report, reported in April 2011, into the treatment of Martin in relation to allegations of abuse of power. And again, that was marked as an exempt item. We had to try and push all we could to make that unexempted. That was done, but actually it's now hidden away within the council's intranet. So, for instance, the redacted AKA report, the misdirection of public search into the Martin Smith report, it remains an exempt item in documents from the Cabinet 14th of the 4th, 2011. It is available in the public domain from the Cabinet. However, if a member of the public searches Martin Smith, they're directed to the Cabinet report and they cannot access the report presented on the 12th of January because it's described as Appendix 2. That, to me, Mr Mayor, is not transparent. What we're seeking to do, and some of the things I've heard the Chief Executive and the Legal Officer talk about today, I just asked them, have they actually listened to Margaret Hodge at the Public Accounts Committee talking about what had gone on at the BBC? Have they listened to what the Secretary of State for Health said about what had gone on at the various hospitals and the scandals that were tried to be covered up by the use of compromise agreements? Have they actually listened to Eric Pickles in terms of what he said about what council's money should actually be spent on? Mr Mayor, what we've tried to do with this resolution is to draw the parallels between what is now starting to come to light and what is being dealt with across the public sector, like what's happened at Morecambe Bay and others. We're also trying to point out and remind people what this council did was wreck Martin Morton's life. That's what it did, and its response, from what I can see, is to allow those people, again we've seen the Martin Smith report and the AKA report, for some reason no one was to blame. No process, no procedure, no system was at fault. What we've said is, and we also, in terms of what happened to Martin, despite the support that the council offered him in terms of bringing this matter to a head and to find his competence to organise some sort of recompense to his life. What happened with that in terms of the way the people that were brought in to represent him were treated? And I find it a little bit rich that we're now being told how the council welcomes the fact that Martin does get legal representation and has been able to deliver today the statement of case, which, as I understand it, is being predetermined before legal action can follow. The other thing that we've tried to do, and we've drawn attention to this in the resolution, is that Martin deserved to have this matter resolved. How can it be right when he is suffering the way he's suffering, his family's suffering, and yet all those people that were named in the Martin Smith report have actually skipped away scot-free? Then we have a situation with regards to, and I'm still not satisfied, because I don't believe the council, us, have ever had a full explanation of what happened and why those two officers and others have been allowed to leave the council, why those two left the day before the report was made public. Mr Mayor, what I've asked for here is a renewed